Hey everyone, Chag Sameach, happy Passover to everyone out there. We are about to start a very, very special Grill and Torah edition, I guess you can call it. But we're going to talk about Pesach. The Parsha this week is all about the Korbanot, it's all about the sacrifices of Pesach and the commandments that we have to have on Pesach. And I want to discuss a little bit about this holiday because, when we hear about a holiday, we celebrate it now, we think everything went smoothly, it was hunky-dory, wonderful, and everything went as planned, and the truth can't be farther, from that statement at all. We had a ridiculous time on our own responsibility, getting out of Mitzrayim, and what we went through, what we put Moshe Rabbeinu through, what we put HaKadosh Baruch Hu, God through, when he was trying to take us out of Mitzrayim. I think there's something to be learned there, and I really am never sure why we don't relate to it at all, the Seder Pesach. In other words, we don't mention it at all in Pesach, and the truth of the matter is, we were really, as people say, I know that my parents had a run for their money with me when I was younger, but seriously, we really gave God a run for his money, when he was trying to get us out of Egypt. So we're going to discuss that a little bit. We're going to try to understand the mistakes that people were making. In other words, I think that, unlike many other religions, we don't say that our leaders never sinned. We say they do, and we actually list their sins, and then we have to learn from them. And so that's something that we find in Judaism to be very, very important. A very, very important role is not to say that our leaders are infallible, rather exactly the opposite. They did sin, and the idea is if they sin, how careful we have to be. We have to understand where the mistakes were. All right, so I'm just going to wait for a couple of more people. I want to show you some of the stuff that I'm putting on the grill right now. We need some more people to get in here, and then we're going to get started. Of course, I'd appreciate if everybody would hit that share button and invite your friends and family. I will hope to make this as interesting as possible. Okay, who's here? Jane is here, Adam's here, Jeremy, how you doing? Mark is here, Jack is here, who's else? Lou Weiss, how you doing? Chag Sameach, Judith is here, Moshe Starshevsky is here, what's going on? Ephraim Berger, Lou, Judith, alright, so thanks everyone for showing up. Let me, need to get the meat on, so you gotta give me a second. Alright, we're gonna put these huge steaks on. Can you hear that? Can you hear it? Can you hear it? Oh man, they look so good. I'll turn it around in 1 second. Let me just stick it on here. And yes, I actually koshered my grill for Pesach. Of course I koshered my grill for Pesach. What's the question? Give me 1 second, 1 second. Oh man. Oh my goodness. All right. So we're going to talk a little bit about the Passover holiday, what went on there. And we're going to try to learn from our own mistakes in Mitzrayim, because we really, we really were not exactly the most appreciative nation when we were being taken out of Egypt. So we're going to talk about that and what we can learn. Who's here? I hear juicy sizzling. It is truly juicy sizzling. Let me get everything on, then I'll turn the camera around. So for those of you who are not aware of the history of Mitzrayim, so we were sent down to Egypt. And we were there in slavery for 210 years. We were actually there a little bit longer. Boaz, what's going on? We were actually there for a little bit longer than 210 years, but in slavery we were for 210 years. We're going to talk about also the beginning of the slavery. When did it start, and why did it start per se? It's very difficult to understand that the chosen nation, we call it the chosen nation, right? I don't even like using the word, but the chosen nation, the people who are promised from the Bible go through so much suffering. I mean, it's truly unbelievable. My question is why? Why were we sent down to Mitzrayim? Could we have avoided it at all? And that's the real question. Hold on 1 second. My dog is making so much noise. Little dogs do. They make a lot of noise. In any case, so we know that it started obviously with Yaakov Avinu when the brothers, went down and discovered Yosef there. And Paro didn't want the Jews to leave because they were actually bringing prosperity to Egypt. So they couldn't leave. But what happened was Joseph asked and successfully received Boker Tov from Toronto. Michael Eisenberg, Korban Pesach on that grill. Not yet, but I hope someday. But what happened was the Jews got a city of their own. They got their own little city, their own place in Mitzrayim called Goshen, and they were living there, and we can say they opened up yeshivas there, and everything was wonderful. Everything was great. Everything except one small detail. It wasn't in Eretz Israel. It wasn't in the land of Israel. And according to several of the explanations, that was the reason that the slavery actually started, because they became comfortable there. Not happy. Not in terms of, oh, we're comfortable, we can live. No, comfortable as if they want to stay there. This is our home. and they lost they took their eye off the ball. The eye off the ball is the land of Israel. That's where we belong. And so they became powerful there, and they became successful, and they were in the White House, in the palace, and Pharaoh's palace and whatnot. And that's when, according to some of the explanations, is when the slavery began, because they did not keep their eye on the ball. They got too comfortable in a place that wasn't home. You could be comfortable there, but you got to know that you're a guest there. I will just reiterate a story that I had with my grandmother when I was very, very young. Not that I'm not young now, but when I was a teenager, my grandmother came to me one day and asked me if I was comfortable in America. And of course, my answer was yes, of course I'm comfortable in America. What's not to be comfortable, right? And she basically looked at me with like a strange face, like, you don't know what you're talking about. And I said, Grandma, what are you saying? And obviously the message was clear a little bit that, we were just as comfortable in Europe as you are in America. And I turned to my grandma and said, Grandma, come on. Holocaust is not happening here. Come on, really, Grandma? And she didn't laugh, but she had a look on her face like we said the same thing. I can't say that America's, that I feel that it's happening tomorrow or whatnot, but that wasn't the point of my grandmother. She said to me something very, very, and it stuck with me throughout. She said, America is a great place, and thank God they've been very kind to the Jews, but we've been only in America for a couple of hundred years, and the Jews in Hungary and Poland were there for 1,100 years. So there's like, and the point resonated by me that, yeah, we're happy there, we're good, we're comfortable, but we cannot be settled there. We cannot get used to the fact that, yes, we're home. We're not home there. Again, you can be very comfortable. I go to a hotel, I can be very comfortable. I can order room service. I can have a fancy car pick me up. I can get all the works, but it's not home. It's just not home. And the second that you become more comfortable in a hotel than you are in your home, I'm not talking physically comfortable. That's not what I'm talking about here. That's a whole other level of comfort that I'm talking about here. When you become more comfortable in a hotel than you are at home, that means there's something wrong with the home. And so the fact that the Jews in Goshen became very comfortable in Mitzrayim, they lost focus on what was the point. So we started the slavery in 210 years. Pharaoh was killing our children, throwing them into the Nile because he had this vision of some kind of savior that's going to come and save the Jews. They're literally suffering for 210 years. And the funny thing is that Pharaoh, I spoke about this when we were talking Bishalach in the Parsha, but when the Jews came and said, we want to go pray to our God, Pharaoh says, what kind of God do you want to pray to? You must have too much time on your hands to be thinking about religion. And that's when he doubled the work, because what happens in our life is we get so sucked into work, and I'm not giving rebuke to anyone, I'm talking to myself, sometimes we forget the more important things in life. And so Pharaoh knew that, so he said, you're thinking about God? You must have too much time on your hands. Let me get you busy with work. So he did that. Finally, we were suffering, and it says, that we screamed to God. We screamed to God to save us. And the question to be asked, it says after we screamed to God that God remembered the nation of Israel. What God forgot beforehand? What are we talking about here? So it's not that God forgot, it's that we have to demand redemption. It's not that, God, of course, doesn't forget, but the point is we have to turn to God. We have to have that communication and say, yeah, we are still your children, and we still do want the redemption. We're not happy where we are today. And it's much easier to ask for redemption when you're in a place of uncomfort. In other words, when you're not comfortable, then you turn up and you say, oh, please help me. But when things are comfortable, you forget about the point. You forget about the main point. And you think, okay, well, we're happy now. And that's really the problem. So then when Moshe, right, the Moshe Rabbeinu, when he came and was going to get Bnei Israel out of slavery, out of, slavery that was killing us, literally, the first reaction was disbelief from the nation of, and that's understandable. I don't think that 210 years in slavery can be taken out in 30 seconds. I understand that we get used to a certain lifestyle, a certain mentality, and it's very hard to get out of that mentality. You can't blame the Jews for not believing Moses after being in slavery for so many years. But after they saw the miracles, after they saw the 10 plagues, after they saw the miracles that there was no doubt where they're coming from, after they saw the splitting of the sea, one after another, they still had that doubt in faith. And the question is, why? Why? And the doubt was so strong that even when they were taken out of Egypt, there were Jews who said, bring us back to Egypt. It was more comfortable there than we die in the desert. Again, after all the miracles, what are they thinking? How could someone possibly say, let's go back to the land of Egypt where they were killing our babies and we were in slavery and it's because God brought us out to the desert to die? How could you possibly say that? In hindsight, you say, well, how could you do that? But you know what? We don't have to look back. We can look at modern days. I mean, look at the state of Israel, 69 years, and the place is flourishing. It's unbelievable what's going on here. And yet, people make decisions, political decisions, because, well, we don't have a choice. If we don't do this, we're going to be destroyed. If we don't give in, they're going to keep killing us. That is lack of faith. Do what's right. I know the world doesn't work like that now. It's the problem. People don't do what's right because they say, better be smart than be right. Wrong. Better be right. Because when you're right, you're also smart. You know the difference between right and wrong. That is smart. That's what it is. Knowing the difference between right and wrong is the definition of being smart, having wisdom. So people say, better be smart than right. That's a ridiculous statement. That is a statement made by people who want to give in and justify their own giving into to immoralities, to giving into terrorists. So the same thing happened in Mitzrayim. The same exact thing happened. It wasn't a matter of lack of faith in God. It was a matter of being pragmatic. At least there we had houses, okay, we were working hard and they were whipping us and everything else, even killing our children, but we knew where our food was coming tomorrow. Pragmatic. Because believing in God is not pragmatic. It's, even the people who don't believe in God say it's an escape. Right? Well, you believe in God, no problem, no problems, everything has a reason. Everything does have a reason. So then what happened? So we went through the Midbar, we complained time, miracles, the man came down from the sky, the water came out of the rocks, miracle after miracle, and we didn't learn. We just didn't learn. Now, where's the punchline here? God, we were supposed to be in the land of Israel after 3 days. 3 days. 3 days, right? And after we heard the voice of God himself on Mount Sinai, right? There's no reason to be having any lack of faith now. There's absolutely no justification for it. And God says to the nation of Israel, go up and inherit the land. Doesn't they fight for the land? It says, go up and inherit the land. Alul shut aretz. Go up and inherit the land. And so all the Mepharshim, all the sages ask, what does it mean, go up and inherit the land? You have to fight for the land, don't you? So the answer was no. We wouldn't have to fight for the land if we would have just listened and gone up and inherited the land. War, it was actually, we could have gotten away with not having war if we would have just listened and gone up. But we were hesitant, and we had doubts. And when we have doubts, that's when they attack. When we have doubts, that's when that's when they attack. So we send spies. And the spies were not sent in order to say, well, we can or we can't conquer. The spies were sent in order to tell us where to go up from. But the nation of Israel was pragmatic. And they said, well, we're sending up spies. We're not checking where we can go into the land of Israel. We're checking if we can conquer it. But nobody asked us that question to see if we can or if we can't. That's not a decision we were asked to make. The same we weren't asked to make whether we should eat the man or not. That wasn't our decision. It was given to us. It wasn't our decision whether the sea should split or not. It was given to us. So what makes us such big bosses all of a sudden that we can make our own decisions at that point in time when everything's being made for us? Now the really crazy thing is the spies were not the evil people of Israel. They were not like the people who didn't know or weren't educated. They were the rabbis. It's not me who says this. Every Jewish source says this. They were the lead rabbis of the society at that time. And why did they say they want to stay in the desert? They said they want to stay in the desert because here in the desert, God is apparent. He's obvious right in front of us. He's giving us everything, right? When you go into the land of Israel, you have to plant your seeds, sow, your wheat, whatever it is. And the natural nature is going to take over it, and it's very hard to see God in nature. It's much easier to be in the desert and having water coming out of rocks. Then thank God, right? So the spies were the great rabbis at the time, except two, right? Yoshua ben Nun and Kalev ben Yefuneh, Joshua and Kalev, right? And they all said we can't go up. Again, pragmatism. I would call it diplomacy, right? We can't do it. It's impossible. I mean, this is a nation that has seen everything that's impossible that they've seen happen. How could you possibly at this point be pragmatic and say, well, we can't do that? How dare you? Could you cross really, were you able to cross the desert on your own? Were you able to cross the sea on your own? Were you able to beat the strongest dynasty in the world on your own? What is it that we did on our own at that point? And we had the chutzpah to say, oh, we can't go up. But again, this was one, lack of faith, no question about it. That we can't, those words can't, should never come out of our mouths. Number two is they felt that in the desert, where God is apparent, the rabbis at the time felt that our goal in life is to live without doing anything. And God will be apparent, and we don't have to plant anything, we don't have to work, we do nothing. But guess what? That is not the goal. Apparently not, because that sin of not going to the land of Israel, when God commanded it, is the only sin in the Torah that we never got repentance for. Even the golden calf we got repentance for on Yom Kippur. The sin of the spies we have never gotten repentance for. It's such a horrific sin. And again, the mistake was that fake pragmatism, that fake confidence, that lack of faith, that idea that, well, we can't do that. We know it's right, but it's better to be smart than right. And who's smart? Well, we decide who's smart. No, you can't do that. And yesterday, the video will come out soon. I'll put it on my Facebook. Yesterday, I was on a debate in Tel Aviv over the Haaretz newspaper article that basically called religious Jews in Israel, Zionist religious Jews, worse than Hezbollah terrorists. Yes, a Jew wrote it, an Israeli wrote it, and he said we're worse because he can kill the Arabs, he can't kill the Jews. I mean, it's racist on the Arabs and it's horrible on the Jews. And I'm sitting there in Tel Aviv, and the channel that I'm on puts up a video of one rabbi who said some pretty radical things, and from there they tried to give some kind of justification to this anti-Semitic, blatantly anti-Semitic article. And I sat there totally in shock. I wasn't in shock because of the article. I wasn't even shocked because I was debating Yarif Oppenheimer, he's an extreme left-wing, anti-religious, anti-Israel person. Okay, when I say Israel, I'm talking land of Israel. Completely anti. He has more ties and more close to literally Arabs who believe in destroying Israel than he does with Jews. And they're justifying this. And they had no idea why I was getting angry. I said, you're calling me a terrorist and then you're justifying it. And you don't know why I'm getting angry? And they couldn't grasp it. And I was very upset. I said to them, can I ask you a question? If another country would ever do a report that Jews steal money, and then they would show one video of one Jew stealing money, and then turn to you and say, well, there you go. What would you call that? And they said, well, that's not the same thing. And I'm thinking, why can't they get this? Why can't they understand how offensive they're being right now? And I really got upset in the studio, and we left. I'm driving home in an hour and a half, and I'm thinking to myself, first of all, I'm thinking to myself, what's the lesson for me? Because everything comes from upstairs. And why did I not succeed getting out clearly what I wanted to get out? What was I doing wrong, number one? And number two, what is it that allows them to think like this? And, every Thursday night I'm at the Kotel, and last night I was really about not to go because I was so upset by this debate that happened. I was in pain. I was really in pain. To think that Jews can think this way. 2,000 years we yearn for this country, we cry over this country, and it takes only 69 years for people to lose everything, and it was hurtful to me. It was really painful to me. So when I went to the Kotel, I came home and I said, I'm not going. And then I said, you know what? Now's not the time to skip out of the Kotel. Now's not the time to skip out of Yerushalayim. And I guess Yerushalayim is my drug, because I got to Yerushalayim and things changed in a second. And I went to hear the singing in Jerusalem, and it's Pesach, and then it hit me. It hit me. Of course they don't think like me, and of course they're not thinking what I think is logically. They have no connection to who they are. They're very nice people. It's not a personal, you're a bad person. No, but they have no connection to who they are as Jews. And I realize this even when the people I'm debating say to me, Judea and Samaria, who wants that, And I say, guys, listen, your grandparents, your great-grandparents did not talk about Tel Aviv. They didn't talk about Haifa at all. Kalev ben Yefuneh, Joshua and Kalev ben Yefuneh were talking about Hebron. The reason that they have no connection to this land is not because they're bad people, it's because they don't know who they are. That's really the problem. And again, this is not personally that they're good people or bad people. They might be very nice people, and I know they're very nice people, but they lost their connection. If someone can possibly say that the Jewish people occupied Jerusalem from someone else, that we're the robbers, there's no way to explain that except the fact they lost their connection. But the point is like this, and I don't say I lost hope, but I was I don't say depressed. I was upset. I was really upset. I was saddened by the fact that only after such a short amount of time, 2,000 years of wishing for something, and a short amount of time we lose it. I'm going to be celebrating 50 years of the liberation of Jerusalem, Judea, and Samaria, and these people are talking about 50 years of occupation. It's just like, open your eyes. Open your eyes. I don't understand it. But what's really the goal here? Well, Pesach, the idea, I think, of Pesach, and I think that this will be a positive note here, is it's a process. You know, for those people who talk about Zionism is not really Jewish and not whatever it is, because people are not keeping this in Israel, not keeping that in Israel. Besides the fact that there's more Torah learning in Israel today, there's 2,000 years. And besides the fact that all the people who are anti-Israel would not be getting here so freely if the Zionists wouldn't be here. It's much bigger than that, because the point is that it's a process. We didn't celebrate Pesach only after we got the Torah. We didn't celebrate Pesach after we came to Eretz Yisrael. We celebrated Pesach from getting out of the slavery that we're in. And that's what and the truth of the matter is, if you look at the Jewish explanations, the nation of Israel was on the lowest level of impurity. So, again, I could see the same people who are saying, well, Israel has these problems and those problems and those problems. You can't celebrate it. I could see the same people saying the same thing in Egypt. We were on the lowest level of impurity. And we did not wait, by the way, to celebrate when everyone was pure. No, it didn't. That's not when it happened. So the point is that it's a process. And, you know, we are definitely going up on a very, very slant, sometimes gradual, sometimes extreme, but we're moving up. And, you know, one of the guys that I debated a couple of was it last week or 2 weeks ago, he brought in a Haggadah for Pesach, and the Haggadah was 50 years. And I was like, wow, nice. He said 50 years of occupation. Somebody wrote a Haggadah for Pesach, which was called 50 years of occupation. And the whole Haggadah was over the 50 years occupation of Arabs and da-da-da-da-da. And I was upset at first, and then I said, you know what? I turned to him and I said, I got to tell you something. I was upset about that Haggadah. It really, you know, but I'm not. Because in 1948, there was not a single kibbutz, not one, that wanted a synagogue on the kibbutz. Not one. In fact, by demonstration, they didn't want one. They were kicking him out. And the fact that secular Israelis, even the most left-wing, you know, who have the audacity to call the liberation of Jerusalem a bad thing, they're writing Haggadot Shel Pesach? That's amazing. Yeah, it's got the wrong content in it, but the fact, even idea of writing Haggadah Shel Pesach is an amazing thing. So I said to the guy who showed it to me, I said, listen, shwaya, you're moving slowly towards the right direction. I'm happy you're writing Haggadot. Hopefully by next year you'll be demanding the rebuilding of the temple so that we can eat the sacrifices of Pesach and the Zvachim. Mina Zvachim will eat, hopefully, Bezrat Hashem, next year on the Beit HaMikdash that will be built in our days. All right, let me check. Here's what we got going tonight. All right, we got some franks, some steaks over there, and some chicken, and that's it. If there are any other questions, I'll take them right now. Who's Adasa Yoel? What's going on? Sharon is here. Caroline Abrams. How you doing? Caroline. All right. Happy you learned something. All right. That's about it, people. I'd ask you two small favors. Number one, check out the Standing Together website and, of course, the Facebook page. It's stogether.org. stogether.org. And share the video. One last thing. I am planning a trip in May to North America for a speaking tour, as well as a fundraising tour for the soldiers, and I am looking for new venues and new neighbors to get to, or all the ones that want to bring me back. So if you're interested in getting involved in the most direct way supporting IDF soldiers, shoot me a line here on Facebook, and yeah, let's put it together. All right, wishing everyone a very, very peaceful weekend. Shabbat Shalom to everyone. Chag Sameach to everyone, and remember, as bad as it looks, we are in a good place. 75 years ago was bad. We're in a good place. We have to say thank you every single day for that. I'll say one small message about the terrorist attack today, which unfortunately a young woman was murdered by a Muslim terrorist, and the Muslim is alive. This is our downfall. This is our downfall. Our downfall is false morality. Our downfall is believing and adopting a morality that has nothing to do with Torah. And again, I love Israel. It literally flows through my veins. So this is not about Israel, but we have to change that. We have to stop adopting a morality that has nothing to do with us. And we have a very clear-cut morality. Keeping a terrorist alive is not moral. There is no reason morally that a terrorist should survive their own attack. None whatsoever. Because now what's going to happen is the young woman, unfortunately, was killed, murdered by this terrorist, and this terrorist has been arrested. He will be put in jail. His family will be getting money from the PA. He will then study for 2 degrees in Israeli jail. He'll probably get married and have kids in Israeli jail, and eventually be released from Israeli jail. Okay, and it's going to cost us an arm and a leg. There is no justification unless, for security-wise, if he has your information, there is absolutely no reason why a terrorist should be kept alive. Unfortunately, I felt this on my skin when my friend was killed 24 years ago already, and all of his terrorists were released from jail and they killed more people. There is no justification for that. It is false morality. It's moral relativism that is actually causing more death to everyone. So it's got to stop. And the truth of the matter is, the Torah says very clearly, this is your wisdom. When we keep to our Torah, it is our wisdom. When we let go of our Torah, all the nations. You see, we're trying to be like the nations, right? We want to be like the nations of the world, right? Oh, democracy. They still not patting us on the back. Look, they have more respect for the Muslims, Muslim regimes, not for the Muslim regimes, who are strong on their belief. Oh, Muslim, we're going to jihad, ISIS. Look, how many times has Syria been condemned? 6 times last 2 years. Israel, 26. So you tell me, what's better off, sticking to your actual beliefs or making believe like you're like the rest of the world? All right. Anyway, our savior, quote unquote, the only way to save ourselves is very simple. We have to come back to who we are. We have to know why we're in Israel. We have to uphold that reason and be proud of it. All right, people, wishing everyone a Chag Sameach. Have a great weekend, and we'll be back again next week. Hasta la vista. Oh, and check out the Facebook. I'm putting up 2 videos. One of the debate yesterday afternoon, which was a great debate. And then later on, when I get the video from the other station with Yariv Oppenheimer, I'll put that up as well with a very, very detailed post about what happened there. All right? Have a good one, everyone. Don't forget to share the video. Love you all.